Our region's business is sponsored by PNC for the achiever in you. Welcome to Our Region's Business with your host, Bill Flanagan.
Today on Our Region's Business, a startup from our region that's using the lure of robots to turn kids on to computer science, science, technology, engineering, and math. Plus the growing demand for workers in manufacturing and an innovative effort to encourage kids to educate each other. But first, the 9/11th Airlift Wing gets a big lift from the Air Force, a plan to replace its fleet of C-130s with C-17s, something that could assure the long-term presence of the military base in our region. Colonel Jeffrey Van Duding is commander of the 9/11th Airlift Wing and joins us today. Welcome, good to see you.
I'm excited to be here. Thank you for the invite.
Yeah, this was really exciting news from the federal government. This is a big investment in our region, assuming they all follow through on it, right?
Sure, it's huge. So the announcement is a remissioning of the 9/11th Airlift Wing to C-17 aircraft. It does still need to be passed by Congress, which we expect to happen sometime in the next Defense Authorization Act. And if that happens, the base, well, instead of recent conversations that were about possibly closing the base, now the conversations are expansion, an increase in full-time personnel, and therefore an increase in the economic impact to the local area.
No, it's for folks who don't know the 9/11th that well and don't know what you do. Currently there's a fleet of C-130s, so maybe you could describe the current mission with the C-130s and how that would change assuming the C-17s come.
Sure. So the C-130 is a tactical airlifter, so I think of it as sort of the people and parts mover in a combat environment, so from a forward operating base to the front lines. The C-17 is a strategic airlifter which would haul much larger amounts of equipment and people, generally from, say, stateside over to the area of operation.
Okay, so the folks who are currently flying the C-130s, they fly them overseas or to wherever the theater is, but then they have to stay there while they do their job, right? Is it going to be different with the C-17s?
That's exactly right. So with the C-17s, we'll be the ones taking the equipment from stateside over to wherever in the world it's needed, and the C-130s will already be stationed there by other units, and then they'll pick up those loads and take smaller loads to where they're required.
I know the Air Force doesn't take these decisions lightly, so what do you think it was about our region and the 9/11th that made them think this was the right move at this time?
I think there's a few things. First of all, we are the least expensive base to operate an entire Air Force, and a lot of that is due to our community partners. We have a great working relationship with the Allegheny County Airport Authority. Our host at Moon Township is phenomenal. And in the past, when they have tried to close the base, there was a real swelling from the community to keep the base open. And obviously, they've been successful. So I've told folks, if you had a t-shirt in the past that said save the 9/11th, you can replace it with a button that says mission accomplished.
Mission accomplished. Well, it is a great testament because the amount of civic leadership and the community pulling together for this base has been remarkable in the airport area, but I think in the region in general as well. And it's a significant presence in our region economically.
It is. So our base alone, we think the economic impact's about $120 million a year between salaries and business that we bring. We have about 1,200 total folks, and 300 of those are full-time employees. With the C-17 remissioning, we would get about 200 more full-time employees for the area.
Wow. Any physical changes that will happen along with this?
There will. So it's a much larger aircraft, so we'll need new hangars that can actually fit the aircraft in them to do the maintenance. And our ramp will have to expand, and we have an agreement with the county authority to give us a little more land that we'll need to expand this operation.
That's great. I know our airport is a big airport in terms of footprint, so they had the space and it was close enough to where you already are to make it work?
It is. It's perfectly adjacent to where we are now. It needs a little bit of updating, and so Congress has authorized about $85 million to build the new hangars and to repair the ramp space. So there'll be some local companies here that are going to be partnering with us to get those built.
Well, that's pretty cool. Infrastructure investment, capital investment that goes along with this as well. Will it mean a lot of retraining with the folks out there to be able to adapt to the new aircraft?
Well, it depends. So there will be some folks that will do the same thing that they're doing now. You know, the running of the base, those type of things don't change. Clearly, the maintainers will have to be retrained because it's a different aircraft. Some Some of those specialties stay the same. If you're sheet metal before, you're sheet metal now, that's okay. But the avionics are different, the engines, all those type of things. And then, of course, the air crew, it's a completely different airplane, so there'll be a lot of retraining to be done there as well.
And you mentioned the full-time employees at the base, but a lot of the folks who are working out there and doing all this work are not full-time employees anymore, are they, of the Air Force?
That's exactly right. Because we're a reserve unit, a majority of our folks are part-time, so they're your neighbors. Their kids are going to school with your kids, and they're in your community, and they've got a full-time job, and they're trying to balance that and their family plus their military service. And as you know, with our ESGR, the Employee Support of the Guard and Reserve, employers have been incredibly supportive of reservists since I've been in the reserve since 1991.
Yeah, I guess what the Air Force and military in general is depending more and more on the reservists and the Guard to be the force rather than a big standing Army or Air Force, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Let's face it, the budgets are getting tighter everywhere, and DoD is no different. And so reservists, compared to a full-time active duty member, are much cheaper to the taxpayer because they're only paid when they're performing duty. And because of that, even though they're trained to the same level as the active duty and they can do the same job, they actually cost the taxpayer a lot less money.
But it makes it really that much more important that employers then understand this and the importance of their role and have the flexibility to be able to make sure these people have a job to come back to after they're deployed.
They do, and we host an employer day every year where we bring the employers out for my reservists, and I give them a little briefing on why it's important that when I ask them, hey, can I have your employee for a mission, that it's important work, they're answering their nation's call, and the employers have just been incredibly supportive.
Well, that's really great to hear. So a lot to come out there, assuming Congress, you know, maybe after the election, they'll finally get down to business and get the authorization bill through. But even more to come next year, you're bringing back the air show.
Yes, I'm really excited. There's been about a 6-year break for Wings Over Pittsburgh because, again, budget cuts and other challenges. So May of 2017, you can put it on your calendar, it's Mother's Day weekend, so bring mom out to the air show open house. We're going to have the Thunderbirds, and we're also going to put a contest on our Facebook page so that anybody in the community can come up with this year's slogan. Every year we have Wings Over Pittsburgh. We have a kind of a sub-slogan, and so we're going to have a contest for the community to help us come up with that.
Very cool. Mark your calendars now for May of 2017 for the big air show. Colonel Jeffrey Van Dooting from the 9/11, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. And next up, RoboMatter, a startup that's using robots to get kids interested in STEM careers. Stay with us.